All right, Jackie, take it away. Jackie, you're muted actually.
Okay. I have a habit of, as soon as I get on, as I mute myself, because whenever I first started, I would always be the one that never muted myself. Anyway, so this week, the beginning chapter was the law of navigation. Anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. And I just thought this was such a great chapter because, so many times we fail to really figure out what the process needs to be, what it's going to actually take, the sacrifice that it's going to take. And sometimes it's not as much sacrifice as we think. Sometimes and I'm so guilty of this. Deb knows that I can complicate the whole business. I can complicate so much that I just get overwhelmed with myself. And then I just put it on the back burner and say, I just don't have time for it. And that's what I was so guilty of the first part of my business, is because I just complicated the things. But in reality, it's like, okay, what do my customers need today? I'm going to check in with my customers and then, make my post and follow up. It's that simple. And so many times Deb would say, Jackie, you're complicating this thing. And that's where I feel like with this chapter, you read about these two guys that went to the South Pole. And one, he knew what it was going to take to get there because he did his research, he did his study, he learned he needed to learn. And then this other guy, I'm sure he felt like he put forth effort, and he studied and he did the things, but he just went overboard. Like he was just this tyrant, and he caused his followers their life. And I can trace back so many, when I first started my business, and and there's people that I feel like that could still be in this journey with me if I had, just successfully mapped out my journey, simplified it, didn't complex it, didn't make people feel like they had to start a blog to work this business, because that's not the case. And everybody can work their business a different way. And I love the fact that Joanna is just such a great example for our team. And she just puts the work in daily, consistent daily. But I love this statement in this chapter. He says, many people hate their failures so much that they quickly cover them up instead of analyzing them and learning from them. And he says, from one of his previous books, Failing Forward, if you fail to learn from your mistakes, you're going to fail again and again. And I feel like that's so true with all of us. Controlling your direction is better than being controlled by it. So, find out the chart, find out what it's going to take to get there, find out, different points of views and different ways we can work the business, and how, so many people do it, but finding out a system and sticking with it, simplified as simplified as possible, and sticking with it. So does anybody have anything that they can add on this? Because I feel like this is, something that I'm working on in my leadership and in my business. And it's something that has been a barrier for me. So would you all have anything to add to that?
How about the question, who Jackie just said, Joanna, she's such a good example of consistency. So who are the top navigators in our business that you look up to, and for what reasons? How have their leadership qualities benefited you and given you an example?
I'll add here, just you, Deb, and Tabby, and you all are the ones that I've built a relationship with, but how you guys cast a vision and are proactive, such as doing this book study for me and Crystal and the others, and how you've invested in us. That is an inspiration to me to be able to do that for the people in my team coming up.
And you've proven, Joanna, you and Crystal and Katie and Tiva, you prove by being on this call that you can reproduce with your team. So Jackie took this, and now she has someone under her taking it. Tiva is on here. Tab took this, and now you and Crystal are on here. Katie is my level 1, and she's taking it so that she can duplicate it again. She's already taken the course once, but it's the duplication. And I think that's a beautiful sign that every one of you are leaders, because if you weren't a leader and you didn't want to be a leader, you wouldn't be on this call. Anyone else? Okay, go ahead, Jackie.
So the law of addition, that's the next chapter. And I honestly probably think that this is probably the most convicting chapters that I've read. And like, just to be completely vulnerable, there's such a, and I think I mentioned the word, I don't want to say the word because it sounds bad. I'm trying to think of another word. It's such a great feeling. It's such a great feeling, and almost like a boost of confidence when you add another person to your team. But the law of addition, it's so much more than that. It's just so much more than just adding another person to your back office. It's so much more than just, walking people through the process. And I think it was Bob Heilig's podcast I was listening to, and he said, when you sign a VIP, your work just begins. Like it's just starting. You're not finished. And I think that's so vitally important. And I know Deb and I have had this conversation, is that, if you can keep a customer, that's just as important as signing a new customer, is keeping your customers. And so I love that he talks about this, the CEO of the company, and he did take flack for, his philosophy in his business about, he took a pay cut so that he could give more back to his employees, but his turnover rate with his employees is better than anyone else. And so he felt like that was more important than him having this 200 and 300 times more of a paycheck than anybody else, was being able to keep his employees. And he served his employees. And when, I love that he said that he answered his own phone calls. He greeted people in the lobby. He just did the little things. And so I've been racking my brain, what is it that I can give back to my customers? Is it just writing a thank you note? Is it, maybe creating a product? I know Jennifer Leith did this, and she actually asked me to hop on, and it's been a while ago, but I loved it. She just gave and kind of like what we did with our stories and supplements event last night. But she's constantly offering opportunities to her team that's maybe not even business builders yet, but she's telling all about the products and all about the opportunities with Plexus, not just the business, but why people are actually joining us from the get-go. A lot of them are because they're so like looking for an answer for their health. They're looking for like a miracle for their family. I know I was. And so I just saw that in our downline, that they were our upline, that was truly genuine, that they really, really cared. And I believe that people will see that in us is, and then that's, and that's attracting. Is that, again, going back to last week, the law of influence. But I believe that we'll be able to continue adding and attracting people to us. And honestly, it takes the workload away. Like, when you have people who are like, I really want what you have, and they come to you eventually, the more and more you grow in your leadership, and the more you grow in your business, and you have a trusting following, and they say, okay, that she's in it for the long haul. She's seen her life changed. I'm going to trust her, with my health situation or whatever. You attract people, and then you add people, but it takes the workload off of you when you're serving. But sometimes it's so easy to get in a backwards mindset, if that makes sense. But when you add value to people, you lift them up, help them advance, you make them part of something bigger than themselves. And then when they start seeing how much you've added, it's just a spiral effect. A leader is a motivator. So I love this statement. I underlined it, and it was something new actually that I got from this go around. But he said, when a person, and he was the chairman of the board of Hyatt Hotels Corporation. He said, When a person moves into a position of authority, he or she gives up the right to abuse people. I love that so much because, and so many times we've all seen it, different types of leaders, and you see your leaders that will try to manipulate and will try to force and coerce and twist your arm to try to get you to do things, like, you can do that all day long, but you're really shooting yourself in the foot. Because I wrote by that statement, a leader is a motivator, someone who you are constantly have a positive outlook, and people just are drawn to the light, like you see those little bug lights, and my grandpa always had one out beside the front door of his house in the summertime, and all these bugs are like, popping everywhere because they are attracted to that light. And, in the darkest of times, the light shines the brightest. And a leader is going to be a motivator, someone who is attracting, and not just to themselves, but what they have to offer, and that it is truly changing lives, and it's a motivator. And so eventually, if we shift our mindset to that, that we're, adding and we're serving our team, eventually they're going to, we're going to pass that on to our business builders as well. Hey, I want to, in fact, okay, this is such an amazing story. So 2 years ago, at the very beginning of my business, I signed up a level one, actually a very dear friend to me. And she told me from the get go, I will never do this business. Like I knew, but she has never missed a month. Never. She faithfully orders every single month. And then last month she said, this past week, she said, I'm tired of playing games. I haven't been consistent on these products. I don't have a story because I haven't been consistent. And she said, I'm tired of spending the money. And she said, okay, I'm willing to have an event. And she texted me, she said, I cannot believe how many people are wanting to come to my event. And it's today, this is this afternoon. And like bukus of people that are going to come to her event. And, cause she said, she's ready to start adding, she's ready to start adding to herself, to her family, and to other people. And I just think it's so amazing. You just never know, like, you keep shining your light, and you keep being faithful, and you keep being consistent, and people are watching, and people really do. So anyways, I don't know if anybody else has a story or a testimony, but I know you do. If you've been in this business long enough, and I know Deb, probably you wanted to say the same thing because I'm sure you have a story. So
I just want to say that I was talking to Jackie about this at some point. I don't remember when it was, Jackie, but I have been so guilty of this law specifically because there is, like Jackie said, there's such a rush of, it's almost like adrenaline when you sign someone new and you're just like, someone new signed. It's so exciting. And you get so much recognition. Oh, Joanna signed another person. Oh my goodness, Joanna signed 2 people today. Oh my goodness, Katie signed 3 people on the last day of the month. And it's such a rush of adrenaline. And that's not all bad. I'm not saying that's all bad, but that's literally that we just begun. And I have been so guilty. Literally, I am learning this with you, okay? That I often think in a recruitment mindset. And I have often signed a lot of people in a month and have let them go. Often. Because they slip through the cracks. I don't remember I signed them all up. I don't even know half of these people and who they are, where I got, like literally they're off of Instagram or off of Facebook. I don't know them. And I have to even remember their names by looking in my back office. But friends, like this is 100% my leadership fault that I have done that. And I think about it as Jackie, as you were talking, I was thinking about it as if, like, what if we pictured our business like a doctor's office? We are not doctors, okay? Basically, none of us are trained to be doctors, but we do have a solution that we can offer to people, and we know it works. Okay, so we know our solution works. So what if you walk into a doctor's office and you've been so scared for like 10 months to go see this doctor? Because you're just like, I've literally tried everything. I feel absolutely horrible. And this is just one more doctor. I don't think that they're going to help me. I just don't think so. And you walk into this doctor's office and they greet you with like open arms. They like give you a hug, like, oh my goodness, Deb, I'm so excited to see you. I've been waiting for you. Like, wow, you have called me a lot of times. We have talked a lot of times. This is your day. I'm so excited for you. And you sit down in your doctor's office and you feel so loved, so cared for. So like, wow, they see me They know. And the doctor says, this is what you need. XYZ. And you know how I know you need this? Because I actually had all the same situation symptoms as you did. I was in the same situation. And you're just seeing you feel so validated, feel so seen, and you are like about to cry. You're just like, this is the most amazing thing ever. And at the end of the appointment, the doctor says to you, I even have a discount for you. And I want to give this to you because I know cost is an issue for you. I know this will work. And you finish the appointment and he hands you a bag full of everything you need. And you walk away and you go to your car and you sit down and you just start crying. You're just like, oh my word, I've been waiting for this. I've been praying for this for so long. What if this works? And you start trying it and you do the protocol for a month and the doctor's there with you and he is ready to answer his phone, whatever. And you start seeing results. But you start calling the doctor and the doctor forgets to respond to you. You start calling or you don't call the doctor because you're like, I don't know. I don't want to bother him. I don't know. And eventually, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? If it were me, I would stop. Okay? I would completely stop. The doctor's not checking in on me. He's not seeing how I'm doing. I just spent money. He's not seeing. So I stop. And I fall short of the answer the doctor told me I would have. And it's kind of a crazy illustration because we're not doctors, but you get what I'm saying. And we do this all the time. All the time. And so I want to ask you this question. I want you to think about it. In addition, the whole law of addition is adding value to someone else. The entire law is adding value. And it's kind of emotional because when you really think about it, are you really adding value to someone else? And am I adding value if I sign 10 people and I forget about 5 of them? Answer me. Unmute yourself. Am I adding value to them?
No.
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 Not at all. And I don't want to make this like a huge deal, but it is a huge deal. It's a really big deal. And I don't think we need to bear the responsibility totally because someone else chooses to buy from you, right? They make the choice. It's their free will. But are we being the leader? And I think about, he gives the illustration and Jackie, you may have said this, but the guy about Dan in the Hyatt hotels. And he says, I've got a lot of work to do today. And I was like, oh my goodness, I feel that so bad. Like, how many of us are like, I'm super busy today. I guess I'll get to her tomorrow. How many of us think that? Like, be honest. I think that all the time, okay? I'll get to her tomorrow. I'm so busy today with X, Y, and Z. And he says, and I really want to get started. And then John Maxwell looks at him and says, I think it's John Maxwell that's talking to him. Yes, it is. He says, Dan, you just walked past your work. Never forget that leadership is about people. Dan cared about people and wanted to serve them as a leader. He just didn't show it. I'm like dumbfounded. Like I'm shook. I'm shook over here. Because I know I'm not going to lump everyone in with me, but I know that I struggle with this. I always feel like I have something to do. And I really have a hard time resting. It's like my worst downfall is like actually telling myself it's okay to rest. I feel guilty all the time if I'm not doing something. That's a problem. But are we saying that today? Who'd you sign up last month? Have you talked to every one of them like several times? Have you checked in with them in the last 5 days? What about the people you signed in February? We had a lot of ads in February. Have you talked to them recently? Or are you like the doctor illustration where you left them after the first month because they got their regimen down? And this is so interesting. Jackie and I are doing this thing with Bob Heilig where we're listening to his podcast and doing stuff. And he says this specifically, your work has only just begun. And if we let people go after the first month, we are on a treadmill we are never going to get off. Because every month you have to recruit that many more people. because you're never putting in the work of a customer. And why are we doing this business if we're here for just recognition? And that really comes down to it, it is pride at the deepest level. And pride is not of God, but at the deepest level, we work a lot of times because we want recognition, and we're forgetting the entire law of addition, that it's not about us. It's about adding people. And Jackie, you are amazing at adding value to other people. And I think we can apply, if we're strong in that area, we can apply it to our business where we start being the customer service. But if you're not strong in that or you struggle in it, it's something that can be learned. The beauty of leadership is that we can learn leadership. Almost every single thing about being a leader is learned. Isn't that good news? I don't know about you, but that makes me feel a lot better, because you can look at a leader and go, oh my goodness, like I'll never be like that. Well, you might never be just like them, but we all can learn how to be incredible leaders for the Lord and for our team. So go ahead, Jackie.
Can I add something here just a second?
Yes.
Well, this, I really connected with this law specifically because for like a long time, I don't know how long, my sister and I have talked about ministry as a emotional bank account where you deposit and withdraw.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote somewhere in here where it says, I think it's in the next law with a solid ground, like, how did you lose respect for somebody? By being ignored.
Mm-hmm.
So like if somebody doesn't reply to my question because they're too busy or because they forgot, like it's genuine, I lose respect for them because I feel like I'm not important. So I feel like that about all the people I signed up in February was 7 and the people in March was 15. Like we added 27 people to my team in 2 months, and I don't even know all of them.
Yes.
Personally. And I know 2 people that have already slipped through the cracks because they weren't consistent on their thing and they canceled their sub because they didn't feel any different. And that being ignored, it happens so fast. Like, so the depositing and the withdrawing, just saying, hey, how you doing, is a deposit, where if you let weeks and weeks and weeks go by, that's really a big withdrawal. So I really resonated with this one a lot.
Yeah. And that's something I'm trying to learn too. And if you've been on my team for any length of time, you know that I struggle sometimes with replying back right away because I have 50 messages from my teammates. As my team has gotten bigger, it's gotten to be more. And I do have to have boundaries. And but I have not always communicated those boundaries with my team. And that's something I'm learning now is someone messaged me a 9-minute long voice message yesterday. Well, that's going to take me a while to listen to a 9-minute long message and then reply. Do I want to listen? Of course. But I didn't have the time because I have a boundary around when I go to bed and how long I'm working for my team. So I just messaged and said, hey, I'm headed to bed. I'll listen to this in the morning. Can't wait. That's communicating. I'm not ignoring. And then I switch it back to mark as unread because I want to remember I need to reply to this person, because I know if I click on that and I don't mark as unread on Facebook Messenger, I will forget because it's going to get lost in 100 more messages. So communicating with your team is super, super important. And I think one thing too is there is no plexus emergency. I love to say that. And someone told me that when I first started, and it was very helpful to me. There is no plexus emergency, and no one should have access to your life all the time. And you do have to take a chance that someone, Joanna, like you said, someone might have hurt feelings and think, oh my goodness, they didn't respond. That's not all your fault, because we have to have boundaries. We have to have strong boundaries around our business and when people can have access to us. So that's just something you have to decide as a leader. What does it look like for you? So anyway, Jackie, go ahead. I'm excited for the next thing. Yes.
Could I say something about that really quickly?
Yes, of course.
So after the chats yesterday, I got on with my number one, Elaine, and we were having like a 30-minute conversation specifically about those 2 things that you just mentioned, like the designated time, like what is work time, setting hours. And Tabitha has done a really good job at that. And I was telling her how Tabitha does it. She has pockets of time that she sets aside for business and pockets that are set aside for family and she does not, she turns her phone off on notifications during that time frame. And so I know that there's going to be times when she's not going to answer my call or answer my message until it comes to her, specific business time. And that's really important because like in my previous shampoo business, that's the one thing that happened was I felt like everything was an emergency. Oh, I've got to take care of this VIP or this customer, or the end of the world is going to happen. But my family was falling to the wayside in the process of that. And so we have to be really careful that we don't spend more priority on our new
Having a
customer
balance.
VIPs than we do our own families. Right. The balance is super important, Joe.
Yeah.
And then following up too, I just gave her so much encouragement on following up for our new VIPs, following up for someone who's ghosted you. As soon as you realize that that's happened, you need to mark their name down in your calendar 1 week from today or 1 month from today, depending on what the situation was, to follow up. Because if you don't put it in your calendar and you don't set yourself a reminder, you will forget. You're not going to remember until you go to message that person the next time. And then you feel like a flake, like, oh my word, I totally forgot to follow up with this person.
Mhm.
So just very much value and importance that I've learned in all of these marketings,
Yeah.
being consistent and how to keep track of those things by, purposefully putting it in your calendar immediately at that moment.
Yes. Yes. I love that, Crystal. All right, Jackie, we
So
have,
the last
go
the
ahead.
last chapter is the law of solid ground. I think one thing as I have started really working on my leadership, the statement that just like gets me is, and I think this has, and I don't know where I've heard the statement, but I feel like it goes so well with this chapter, the law of solid ground, because it talks about character, is how can we lead others if we can't lead ourselves? And I know for me, personal development has always been, I've always loved personal development, but I've always felt like, and I think we could all say to a degree that we're our own worst enemy, and one thing I have loved about Plexus is that it's given me the energy to get up in the morning, and I am a morning person. But that was always a struggle for me, is getting up and having a set schedule and knowing what I have to do and doing the things I need to do, even when I don't feel like doing it. And he talks about here how to build trust with people is by consistently exemplifying competence, connection, and character. And there's so many times, I feel like leaders expect for people to do these things, and they have this like long list of expectations where, and we're not even putting forth the effort to be above what we're expecting other people. I know my mom and dad have always been in education, and I had the honor to work with them in preschool for several years. And we always had our teacher work week when we'd come back before the students. And the last year they talked about the verse in 1 Corinthians about striving for excellence. And, you can't expect what you don't inspect. We expect our customers to take their products. We expect our leaders to be working every day. But, are we motivating them, and are we inspecting that it's getting done? Or, like Deb was saying, are we just letting them fall by the wayside and we're never not checking in? Or, we're barely working our business, are we inspecting that they're doing that? And not talking about abusing them and say, I can't believe you're not working, or, but motivating them to do it, and, giving them incentives, and, talking about the incentives this month, and, and how they're amazing. This month it's not been a super packed momentum month, because I feel like we had so much momentum in February, March, and we're trying to keep up with our customers and different things. But the rise of incentive is absolutely amazing, but I love the statement. He says, no man can climb out beyond the limitations of his own character. Weak character is limiting. So before we can grow in our leadership, we have to be willing to grow ourselves and be willing to push ourselves. And I know, and like Deb said, there's boundaries and different things, and I know life is a marathon. I understand that, but I'm a runner, and I do get a runner's high. I love it. But there are times I feel like, okay, I have to push myself a little bit harder. I'm never going to grow past. And then just recently I changed up my workout routine. And honestly, if like, whenever I go to work out in the morning, it feels like I have never ran a day in my life because it's so hard. And every day I'm like, I cannot do this every day. And I'm like, why can't I do this? I've been working out every day for as long as I can remember. Why is this so hard? because, it's pushing yourself past your limits, a little bit at a time, not so much that you want to give up, but enough where you feel like, okay, this is painful for me. But telling yourself you can do it, people do it every day. People run marathons every single day, and they're not any different than any of us, and I've heard stories, like where, an 80-year-old man, was about to go, his family wanted to put him in an old folks home. And that's not the right name for it. But he started taking supplements, and he started working out every day. And he wound up competing in a triathlon at like, I don't know, between 70 and 80 years old. It's just an incredible story. Anybody can do it. If you're willing to put forth the effort. But before we can, begin leading others, we have to be willing to put forth the effort into ourselves. Just like everyone that's on this leadership call, you are putting forth the effort. It is effort, outside of your business, outside of recruiting, outside of customer service, to again, put forth more effort into your business by showing up for a leadership call, by reading your chapters every single week. And that is putting forth the effort. But I love this statement that he says, you can't get too much done in life if you only work on the days when you feel good. If your people don't know what to expect from you as a leader, at some point, they won't look to you for leadership. And I just love that so much, because it's so convicting. When you don't have character within, you can't earn respect without. So, I don't know if you felt as convicted, but I feel like that's one area that I feel like I need to work on is, leading myself, making sure I'm doing the things so that, I'm setting forth a good example of excellence, with people that are following me and that are, wanting to start building a team and wanting to change, the course, not just their health, but being able to afford their products and being able to, start leading their own team. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add?
My grandpa always said, you have enough time to do exactly what you want to do.
I love that.
It's so true. I will tell you, statistically speaking, the most successful people in all the world are the busiest people in all the world. They have the most things they have to do. And Jackie, I'm totally putting you on the spot here, but Jackie, I hope you don't want me to say this, but she told me for 2 years she just didn't have the time. And life, she has so many ministry things and things that are filling her cup, not to mention she's a mom of 5 kids, right? 5, 6?
Mm-hmm. 5.
5 kids. I mean, goodness, I'm overwhelmed with 2. So we can have every excuse, and it doesn't mean what she was doing wasn't valuable. But when she decided, I will make the time for this, she had the time for it. And it might look different for every person, but we have the time. We do. We have the time. It is what we make. Go ahead, Katie. I can tell you want to say something.
I was just going to say, Jamin always says, Jamin's my husband, for those of you who don't know, but Jamin always says, you make time for what's important. And he's said that like our whole marriage. He always says that you make time if it's important. And if you're not making time for it, then you need to evaluate whether or not it is important or not.
That's right. That is right. I want to say at the end, I want you guys to all go before this call. We have 4 minutes. So we have to kind of like do rapid fire here. Can you guys all go to the apply if you have your book? It's the apply section of the workbook. And otherwise, I will just read the questions. I want to do rapid fire really quick because what the law of solid ground comes down to, and Jackie, you were amazing at what you said about this chapter, it all comes down to trust. Solid ground is people having trust in you and you being a trustworthy leader. And he makes this point that how do you know if you are good in this area? How do you know if you are trustworthy? He says, how trustworthy would your followers say you are? How can you measure their trust? And the answer is by how open they are with you. If people are open with you, that means you have gained their trust. And the good news is if people are not open with you, you can work in this area. But I really want you to evaluate trust. Are you trustworthy? Do you share information you shouldn't share with someone you think won't say anything? Do you share information and say, don't tell anyone this? But there's very few times that that's actually needed unless it's like your husband. And there have been many, 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 many times in my life where I have said something carelessly that then came back to really bite me and hurt so deeply. And I can look back and go, yeah, and it was actually my fault because I should never have said that original thing. So that is something to ask yourself right now. And obviously, we're not going to ask you on to say anything right now, but evaluate, are you trustworthy? And if you're not super trustworthy, that is why people are not drawn to you. And it's extremely hard truth. But people will come to you when they feel they can trust you. And I love the second thing. It says most high achievers spend time developing their professional skills. They seek to be highly competent. Fewer focus on what? What does he say? Do any of you see it? It's number 2 on page 61 of the workbook. Fewer focus on what?
Character.
Right. We want to be the best at what we do, but are we focusing on our character? And I want you to read this as part of your homework. Evaluate yourself. Focus on 3 areas: integrity, authenticity, and discipline. To develop your integrity, make a commitment to yourself to be scrupulously honest. That's a really big deal. Don't shave the truth. Don't tell white lies, and don't fudge numbers. Be truthful even when it hurts. I mean, it's just incredible. It's incredible. And I think when we become the most trustworthy people because we want to please the Lord first, our businesses explode because people will trust us, they will come to us, and they know that we have their backs. And that is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful thing. So we have less than a minute for homework. The solid ground, if you didn't do the homework, do 62 and 63 of the homework of solid ground because it's really important. Otherwise, we're going to do 7 and let's do 7 through 9. And Jackie, thank you so much for leading this call. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of all of you for being on this call and making your business a priority. And I love you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.